This is Cal, and I'm going to be talking to you about something that many of you may be trying to figure out, and it's what weapon should I buy as my first personal defense weapon, maybe the first one you've ever purchased, and maybe some pros and cons about which weapon is best for concealed carry, or even depending on your skill level, which would be the best one for you to carry. So my personal opinion is if you've never owned a weapon before, probably the best weapon for you is going to be a revolver. And if you're very experienced with firearms, you may still choose a revolver because oftentimes the semi-automatic versions are problematic in that they jam, and in a stressful situation you could end up being forced to just throw the gun at someone because you don't know what to do with it. So we don't want that. So I guess the first thing I would talk to you about is you might want to go for the power, but that's really a bad choice because not only do you have to consider protecting yourself from that threat, but what is behind that threat? The little grandmother walking down the street trying to get some exercise. This would not only take out your assailant, but it would go right through them and probably take out the person behind them, and maybe even go through them and take out the little baby playing in her bedroom. So not only is this way too big to carry concealed, it's also a weapon that's not meant for personal protection in situations probably like in a city or a suburbs. Now this one, if you were going to be hiking in an area where there's grizzly bears, this 44 Magnum would probably be your first choice. And being a revolver, it has one big feature that I think is important in self-defense, and that is you don't have to fumble around with a safety. This can be fired double action or single action. Double action being where you pull the trigger through and the hammer comes back and falls. Single action is where you cock the hammer back and you just have to lightly touch the trigger to make it go off. So this would be a good thing for personal protection, maybe against bears in the back country, but not in the suburbs. Now, myself, one of the things I like to carry is this 45 automatic Springfield Armory XDS. It holds 6 rounds, and if you've got one in the chamber, it will hold 7. It has a little feature right here. You see this little thing that sticks up above? You can feel it if you run your finger across it. You can also see it. When that's sticking up, there's one in the chamber. So right now I have 7 shots. This is a We the People holster that fits inside the belt waistband, and it conceals very nicely. It's a very small firearm for personal protection. The 45 is something you still have to be considerate of what is behind you or what's behind the person you might be defending yourself from. But one of the features I do like about this is the safety. There's no safety to fumble with. This gun has safety features like the grip safety. So when you grip it, you've automatically taken the safety off, but it's got a second safety. You can see the trigger has a trigger safety. So if you touch the trigger from the side, that gun will not fire. You actually have to intentionally pull the trigger. The safety on the front of the trigger has to be pulled back before the trigger can be pulled, as well as the grip has to be depressed. So you're not fumbling around with a safety, and safeties vary from one gun to the next, and you may not know exactly where it's located or what position it's in to be safe or fire ready. So I don't like safeties that are manual. I like these more intuitive ones where you just grip the gun and you're able to fire. This Ruger 380 automatic, it's an LCP. This LCP, or light compact pistol by Ruger, has no safety per se on it. It holds 6 rounds with 1 in the chamber. You have 7 rounds. So you pretty much got about the same amount of firepower with these automatics as you would most revolvers, 6 shots, or if you got 1 in the chamber, 7. The drawback to these automatics, especially if you're not a person who is very familiar with firearms and fires them a lot, is that semi-automatics tend to jam. And a lot of people don't know what to do when a semi-automatic jams. They're not real adept at clearing it out and getting it ready to fire again. Plus your assailant knows you've jammed and they're going to be coming at you. That's why I like revolvers for personal defense. However, you do have the option once it jams of throwing it at someone, and that could deter them for a little bit because it's pretty heavy. An example of a 9mm that I have is this Ruger. This is a medium-sized 9mm made by Ruger. 9mm is a P95, and it holds, I think, around 15 rounds, maybe 16 with 1 in the chamber. I can't exactly recall because I never use this except for target shooting, and I don't pay that much attention to it. And one of the reasons I never use it is because the safety's right here. And I used it one time. I came home one time and I found my front door to my house open. And honestly, I thought maybe I left it open, but I wasn't sure. So I pulled out my pistol. It was dark. And this is the one I pulled out. And I'm sitting there going, okay, is the safety on? Is the safety off? And I didn't know. I had to actually turn my phone on, turn the light on, put it on this gun to figure out the safety. That's not a situation you want to be in if you're looking at personal protection. So after that incident, I just put this away for target shooting, and that's the only thing I ever use it for. Now, I did tell you that I like revolvers. There are some other revolvers that I want to talk about. One is this .22 Magnum. Technically, yes, it is a revolver. It's single action. I wouldn't advise this for personal protection. It's kind of a novelty, really, for me. But I certainly wouldn't want to be on the business end of it. It holds 5 rounds. And the thing about this particular 5-shot single action revolver that I don't like, one, it doesn't have a trigger guard, but you really don't need that unless you pull the hammer back. The thing about it is, if you don't put this hammer in the little notch between the 2 rounds, and a lot of people don't know to do that, if this hammer is sitting on top of a round and you drop it, and this hammer hits the ground, it would fire. Currently, I have it sit, I don't know if you can see this, but it's between 2 rounds so that the hammer is in a notch. The cylinder can't be turned. The hammer is holding it in that little notch. And if you drop it, the hammer is just going to hit the notch on that cylinder and not be able to fire the weapon. So that's one safety feature that you want to look for. If you drop a gun, is it going to fire? You need to know those things. All these guns I've showed you have some way of preventing it from firing if it's dropped, or I wouldn't own them. But that 22 Magnum is not going to be something you're probably going to choose for personal defense in most situations. If you've never owned a weapon and you're looking for something dependable to use in a lot of situations, I recommend this Ruger LCR, Light Compact Revolver. It's 5 shots, 5's all you need. I remember my firearms instructor at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center telling us back when we used to use revolvers, all these people you're facing are going to have automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons, and they may have 15, 18 shots. And he said, all you've got to do is be calm, make your shot accurate, and fire. The first most accurate shot wins, as Gary used to say. But he said when you've got the luxury of knowing you've got 18 or so shots in your 9mm semi-automatic, you sometimes do what people call spray and pray. When you only have 6 shots, you're more selective and you try to make it accurate. 6 is enough. And law enforcement incidents tend to back up that idea that extra rounds in a gun doesn't make you more accurate or more deadly. It gives you a feeling that you can spray and pray because you got plenty of rounds, and the next thing you know, you've emptied your clip and you've hit nothing. So when you're in a personal defense situation, you want to be accurate. You want to be calm. And you're going to be close range to somebody more than likely because you don't want to shoot somebody way away. They're not a threat to you unless they're pointing a gun at you. The thing that you want to remember is you are using this for personal defense, and you don't want to fire it unless you have to. 6 rounds should be plenty. This particular weapon is hammerless, which means you have to fire it double action. You have to pull the finger through the trigger, and it goes through the whole cycle. It spins the cylinder around and fires the round. The nice thing about that is you don't have to fumble with safeties. It's pretty foolproof, really. This is a .357 Magnum revolver. I like it because the .357 Magnum is more durable than a lightweight revolver. It's built to handle the extra stress of a .357 round, but instead of putting .357 Magnum ammunition in it, I have .38 Special ammunition. .38 Special is just as deadly as 9mm. That's what police used to use before they went to 9mm. And you can get those plus P plus rounds or plus P rounds, which are very hot, and they fire much more powerfully than just a regular .38. And the .357 Magnum will handle those just fine. You don't have to worry about this lightweight revolver and using heavy rounds in it if you get the .357 Magnum. This can be purchased also with the laser red dot if you like that. It's a little more expensive. I didn't opt for that because I've had many rounds of practice with a double action revolver and law enforcement training, and shooting center mass just comes second nature to me, so I don't need a dot to tell me I'm shooting center mass. I like this little revolver except one situation. When I carry it on an ankle holster, it's a little bit wide right here and it sticks out and it rubs my ankle. It rubs the part of my shin or some place that always ends up feeling uncomfortable. So I don't carry it in my ankle holster, but I do have a holster where I can carry it on my belt, and I have one where I can carry it under my arm. And that hammerless aspect, you could actually carry it in your pocket, and it's not going to go off because there's no hammer. Of course, with this Ruger, even if you hit the hammer, Rugers are built so that they will not fire from dropping it and hitting the hammer. But you don't even have to worry about that with this particular revolver. you might notice it's got a very short barrel, and that's one of the other reasons that I don't use a 357 round. 357 has much more recoil than a 38 Special, but you get no benefit from that extra gunpowder in the 357 Magnum round with this short barrel, because once you fire this gun, the bullet is way out here and the powder's still burning, so it doesn't make the bullet go any faster. I dare say there'd be very little difference between a 357 Magnum round and a 38 Special Plus P in this gun because of the short barrel. But that doesn't matter. It's going to be plenty enough for personal protection. If you've enjoyed or learned something from this, like this channel and subscribe, because I'm going to have more things that are coming around that will give you a better idea about safety features and about the practical aspects of carrying concealed or carrying for personal protection that you might want to know before you make your own decisions. I've had a lot of training and a lot of experience with this, and some of you haven't. But you're just now beginning to get involved in this, and you want to talk about it, but you don't know anybody to talk about it with. Well, I'm going to put some of those videos out there that's going to answer your questions and explain things you may not understand. So enjoy this, like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate you watching.